Hello, welcome everyone. Welcome back to my channel, and I'm really happy because I found the lovely Heidi Hayden to talk with me today. And she is a psychic medium and animal communicator who lives in Western North Carolina in the States, and as she calls it, in the woods.
It's true.
She's also working on her book. I think it's almost finished, but we'll talk about
Mhm.
that. Because my first question is always, how did you get to be on the spiritual path? Which in your case is especially interesting because you were in the military for quite some while. So I would love to hear this story.
Yes. So grew up, as anybody else, decided to join the military, served for 4 years in the Marine Corps. And I tell people it's the only way to outdo five older brothers. Two of them went in the Navy. So I picked the harder of the military services.
Mm.
And then I get out and grew a career in human resources. So I was, training people and doing compensation and benefits. I also taught in a master's program. I went to classes and got my master's degree. And so I was living a very full executive life, working with my community. I was involved with a benevolent association through the military association that I was in. So I was just busy. So,
Yeah.
I didn't have the start that other people had, which was, I knew I had a gift from early on. I didn't. I believed in ghosts. I got the occasional palm reader to read my palm or had a reading, but it wasn't anything that I was interested in or thought that I
Mm.
certainly didn't have those gifts. And it wasn't until my dad passed in 2013 that I went to a medium to connect with my father. He was the closest person to me. He raised me. I wasn't raised by my mom.
Yeah.
And it was sort of this quiet unfolding that the universe just kept giving me a little bit more, a little bit more. And I just became curious. And then I finally opened. I was just a very close, tight individual with the work that I was doing. And finally, last year, beginning of last year, I said, yeah, let's do this. So that was it. And the universe, as if they said, we've been waiting for you a very long time. Thank you for joining us. And they've just sort of dumped all these gifts on me. And it's just been an extraordinary ride since then. So that's how I got my start.
Yeah, you hear that a lot, that because someone close to them has passed, that people are starting to get interested
Yeah.
in this work or in spiritual world, and it's amazing that to hear that your gifts sort of slowly unfolded after that.
Yeah.
So what I find interesting about you is that you are both a psychic medium, so basically working with energy fields, auras of humans, but also an animal communicator.
Yeah.
And you have really decided to do both of these and to bring healing in both of these groups. So how does that feel for you? Because I mean, I suppose it is and isn't different. It's reading
Yeah.
energy, but an
Yeah.
animal can't talk back to you.
Well, so that's the interesting thing is that I started as the psychic and medium, right? I did that training. And then I had the opportunity, the universe brought me a dog. I had not a dog in 40 years. This was a very old dog. Hart was 13 years old. And then about a month after I got him, even though he had a litany of health issues, turns out he had more. And he had cancer and he had kidney failure. So I called a mentor of mine and I said, Winter, please help me to communicate with my dog. Please, I know it can be done, so I need to do this. Interestingly enough, is that I was never able to communicate with Harp. I still can't communicate with my own animals. But when I tried to communicate with others, it's as if it just was, I felt the mediumship was somewhat easy because I think mediumship is easy if you're just open, right? If you just listen to the quiet, it's easy. It's the getting out of your head. But
Yeah.
the animals, it's as if their personality is just written on their face. And it's as if I just look at them and I know what they're saying. So yeah, it is different in a sense because people think humans and animals are that different, but we're still energetic beings. We're still able to communicate. We have brains and feelings. And so I've just decided that I just haven't said I'm just going to communicate with the animals. So I am going to do both, at least for now. So the people side and the human side. It's the same working with energy. I'm just saying I'm going to tap into the dog as opposed to tapping in to you for a psychic reading or finding grandma in spirit. I'm gonna get Fido in spirit. it's really the same, only slight differences, but I'm loving all of it. And right now my work is maybe a third psychic work, a third mediumship on the human side, and then the other third is the animal communication.
Oh, good. And because you said, you worked in professional businesses before, is that something you still do, or are you now focusing completely on your psychic work? Yes.
I'm just starting to move over and want to fully at some point do this work. I'm still doing human resources consulting because the universe has allowed me to do consulting work for the last number of years, which has been beautiful. I've been able to work remotely, which is why I now live literally in the forest in North Carolina. I am going to still continue to that for a little while, but I don't advertise. The work just sort of comes. So the work has been dwindling. As soon as my spiritual side started going up, this work has been dwindling, and it's given me enough to sort of pay my bills while I build this side. So it's given me a little bit of comfort that I don't have to worry about that side, but that will slowly dissipate as this kind of goes up. And I see probably by the end of next year, I'm not sure I'll be doing that work at all.
No, yeah, it's amazing how spirit sort of arranges for that, isn't it? And the other question I ask all my guests is, so because we're doing this spiritual work, but obviously there's also a business side to what we do if you're doing it for yourself. So how do you combine that? How do you make that switch? Because like you said, you've got to pay your bills, and but you want to be spiritual as well because you want to help people.
Yes.
So how do you make that combination or find that combination?
Yes. Well, I'm going to start with a plug for you and for Jason, because if it weren't for the two of you, I don't think I would be on the spiritual side, business side. I would still probably be dabbling in it. But I think it was helpful to go through the mini workshops that you had called the Magic Recipe, and then to do your full workshop that is just ending now. And that's been that sort of 9 months of getting little doses of it. There's a lot to doing your own business. I have that from the HR side, but it's very different. This is more, it's selling yourself, it's selling the product, which is me. And my work with spirit, right? So I'm having to sort of balance that. It's a lot of work and upkeep, but what I'm loving is that it's giving me an opportunity to connect with people, show the abilities that I have, the work that spirit's allowing me to do, and balance that piece of it. It's not easy. It's like any other business. You've got to build it, but I'm still very focused on the work and spirit and doing that. So I'm not rushing any of the business side. I know that it will come in the time that it's supposed to come. That's what the universe does for us. So I'm working hard at balancing those things, working at doing my newsletter, which went out this week, and doing demonstrations and teaching or helping people teach things. So just a little bit at a time and sort of balancing that piece to transition. Because the one thing I've realized is that if I focus on my human resources consulting and don't make the transition to a spiritual business, it's always going to be a smaller piece of my life. Yeah. And I don't want it to be a smaller piece of my life. I love the energy and spirit. I mean, right now I just feel the chills and the tingles, and I feel spirit within me. So I'm like, I love this work. So if I don't focus on making it a business, I'm not going to be able to sit in this energy and be with people like you all the time. I'm going to sort of have that business hat on, and I just don't want to have that anymore. So I want to make that switch, and that's what I'm working on.
Yeah, because if you make that switch, it's still, you're still going to have partly a business hat on, but in a different sense, And so thank you for the compliment. That wasn't rehearsed or anything. So
no, I know, and I know that that's not your style. You're very quiet about what you do, but you have the ability to show me how to use social media and to think things differently, and to use your experience with building your business as well as Jason's business over time, but still being authentic, still being yourselves. And that's the piece of this, which is I'm finding that there are people that are trying to get in here that feel like they have to put some different mask on. And I just said, you know what, that's not what this work is about. It's about being our authentic human selves, but reaching in and working at that higher vibration and working from the soul level. So I'm grateful to you guys for being part of my journey.
Oh, thank you. And I know you're very authentic, and I've got a touch on this a little bit, because you've been posting on Facebook about this as well, is that you've been writing a book. And the book is about healing yourself. And I believe it's about your journey
It is.
in
It
healing.
is.
I haven't read it. I look forward to seeing the finished product. I will definitely buy it. And if Heidi tells me where to buy it, then I will add it in the description here. But it's not finished yet.
It's not. Nope, it's not.
Can
It's
you
not.
maybe just sort of lift a tip of the veil so people know what the book is about?
Sure. Yeah. And I'm sitting here getting emotional just thinking about it. So part of my journey is when I moved to North Carolina. Before I started developing, I had curiosity in the field, and I had done some Reiki training and taken a few smaller workshops, but I really wouldn't have said I was really fully developing. But so the journey started in 2018. I had this idea for a business book, sayings that I've used along the way that I thought would help people. So that's what I said. I want to help people. So I was looking at it from a business perspective. So Spirit doesn't let you down. I was just, a brochure came in for a local community college. And I said, oh, I wonder what they offer down here. Having taught in a master's program, having taken a master's program, I was interested to see what the local college had. So there was this little thing in the back that said how to write your memoir. And I said, I don't want to write my memoir, but maybe they can help. So I took this 6-week class, and then I took another 6-week class. And then I got into this writing coaching group where a bunch of people get together and you write a story and then they critique it for you. And what I realized is after almost a year of writing, because of the prompts that they give you in the initial class, I was writing what I began to call healing stories, healing things from my past. I was never a writer. The only thing I ever wrote was for class or something I was required to do. If somebody said, sit down and write a story, I'd be like, for what purpose? But I found, Ursula, that I had 22 stories of my life written and only 10 business stories. So I was like, So about 2 months later, still not getting the hint, 3 different times the universe came. And for those of you that do this work, you get it. You get this little ping from the universe, and somebody gave me a card pull. It said, what are you waiting for? And I knew that immediately the book came into my head, but I wasn't writing a book. I was writing a business book. I just happened to be writing healing stories. And 2 other instances came to light. And I finally just looked up and I said, okay, I'll write a book on healing. I'll write it. That was how it was. That was only beginning of December of last year. So I spent January, February, March of this year writing. I'd only written 100 pages. I wrote another 300 pages, just getting stuff out, healing, just writing stuff. And then I worked with my writing coach, and I took 66 stories and 400 pages, and I figured out how to lay it out into this book. It's still long. It's 317 pages, but it's been healing. And I cannot express to you how much stuff was inside of me that had to come out. And, I've heard that in this business, people say 90% of us are broken. And I'm like, well, it might be more, but I was one of the broken ones, and I'm still a bit broken, but have gotten so much out of me by writing this book. And now I wanted to give it to other people. And as I'm giving it to people to read, to beta readers, and now my proofreader has it, she's doing a bit of editing. And Ursula, she sent me a note the other day. This is a woman with a business mindset that has written grants for a living. And she's reading the book and sent me a note and said, this has nothing to do with the work I'm doing for you, but please know how much I'm enjoying this book. I love it. And I can relate to it. And I said, oh, this is what I want. If somebody can read it and get some healing from it and understand that, I don't, throw labels on me. I was a high-level executive for 20 years of my 35-year HR career. I was the head of human resources for September 11th Memorial and Museum. I worked at Park Avenue law firms for 15 years. I taught in a master's program, put all of those labels on me. And then you read the book and you go, oh, she was broken. I'm broken. I need to fix. I would like to. We all have those things. So definitely. You can see I'm just passionate about it. And it's been so healing. There's more that's coming out. But my goodness, Ursula, if one person like this woman already told me, if they pick up the book and they can take something from it to make their life a little bit better, it would have been worth the torture of writing all of those words, because it was hard to write those stories of sexual abuse and failed marriages, being mean to people. If I could just help one person to be better tomorrow and the next day, that's what this work is all about. And that's why I think I'm so passionate about doing this work and healing. I don't want to read animals for entertainment purposes, right? Some people will say that. I want somebody to heal. I want somebody to know that their dog is fine in spirit. I want them to know that they passed and that they're doing great and they're up in the meadow. I want them to know that they are sorry that they didn't get to give them one last kiss and see that person in front of me release their grief, knowing that they're connected to that animal still. So I didn't mean to get so emotional, but
no, there's no problem.
it's just so important.
It just shows how genuine you are about what you do, and how authentic and how much this means to you. And and that's important in this work. People know me because I do the marketing or the finances, or but I'm also passionate about what I do, and I care about the people that I help. I want to move them further. And then you've spent this last half year with me, and I'm so happy just to see that you've found that passion, and now you've got the mold to sort of put it in so that you can actually bring it out there. And I'm really looking forward to seeing your work next year, and also how you're progressing with your mediumship and your animal communication, because I know you've had lots of invitations for demonstrations, and unfortunately always in the middle of my night.
Yes, exactly. So yes, I'm going to try to do some in the middle of the day, because this pandemic, I always say a crisis is a terrible thing to waste. One of the things that would be in the business book, right? This saying of crisis is a terrible thing to waste. The pandemic has allowed me to meet people like you that I probably would have had a very closed world before.
Yeah, and vice versa as well. So thank you for talking to me, and thank you for being so honest and open, because that's what moves me, and that's what moves people. And so for the people that are watching this, Heidi doesn't have a website at the moment, but she's working
on it.
Promised me.
Working on it under Ursula. We're going to get it up there.
You can follow her on Facebook or Instagram. You can look for Heidi Hayden or Spiritual Whisperings, animal communication, but I will put it in the description so that you can easily find it. So thank you very much, Heidi, for spending this time with me. And
so welcome.
I hope to see a lot of you in the future.
You will absolutely. You're not getting rid of me. You guys have been such a blessing. So thank you so much for having me on and allowing me to tell a bit of my story.
Thank you too.